All right, we're going to get started here in a minute, just kind of waiting for everyone to show up. How you guys doing today? Who's here already? Just say hi in the chat if you're here. And like we did last time, I'm going to give you a chance to jump on the call if you want and ask questions. We're just going to do this again in a Q&A format. And I'm curious to get some feedback from you guys on how you'd like to do this. I'll probably do some, definitely some live streams talking about specific topics. I've got a few things that I might bring up today as well, but yeah, definitely curious to get some of your input on that. So let me see here if I can see you guys. See, there's not too many people yet. Let's see who shows up here. So let's see, while we're going here, while we're waiting for people to come in, yeah, let's talk about some of the, if anyone's got any big wins, let me know. Let's see. And I'm going to look up here. I had a topic I wanted to talk about from one of the homeworks or one of the lessons that was in the membership. All right, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, yeah, I found it. So, all right. All right, so yeah, I'll just kind of get started here. All right, looks like some people are coming in. So just say hi if you're here, so I can see who's here today. I know it's a Sunday, so late for some of you, early for others. Hey, Jerry. Good to see you, man. Oh, a focus. What's up, Joe? Yeah, so if you guys want to start out, if any of you guys have a question, if you want to jump on the chat. In fact, what I'll just do is I'll just post the link in there, and then if you guys want to ask a question, you're welcome to do it before there's a big crowd. So you guys are the early ones, so you get to jump on here and ask a question. All right. I'll give you a couple minutes if one of you wants to jump on here and ask a question. Otherwise, I'm gonna start discussing what one of the topics that I thought would be interesting to talk about here. So. All right. Okay, here's a question from EG. He says, "Hey John, I'm almost 18. What should I know when I turn 18?" Isn't that's a? I mean, we could do a whole live stream about that. We could just talk about that for hours. But here's what I would say. Well, I mean, the critical things. I think I did a video on this a while back, but like what I wish I would have known, younger when I was 18. But I would say this, right? If you're just turning 18, that the most important thing to realize is the idea that the things that you do now will have an effect, a cumulative effect on your future, right? So I just went on a hike with a couple of my buddies, with Dan Martell and Clay Herbert, and we were talking about this idea that essentially, like, you know, it's the small things that you do, like these very, very small things that have this cumulative effect over time that completely change your course of life. So here's a good example of this. Actually, James Clear, I interviewed him, I think about a month or two back. Also a friend of mine. He's wrote a book called Atomic Habits, and in that book, and he's not the one who came up with the chart, but he's the one who's kind of made this popular. Is he said that he showed this chart of getting 1% better every day. In fact, there's another guy that has a YouTube channel, 1% Better, that does book reviews, and essentially, if you get 1% better every day, you're going to have a 36x increase over a year, right? But if you get 1% worse every day, it's like, you know, it's nominal. You end up obviously losing. But the point is to get 1% better every day. So the reason why I'm saying that if you're turning 18 is because I think a lot of people at a younger age, like, you should be optimizing your life for when you're 25 right now. That's what you should be thinking about. It's like maybe 23 or 25. I always say like 5 years ahead of time. Like 5 years is kind of the magic number. It's the magic number for succeeding in life, for succeeding at something, for making a really big change, right? And it's the place you should always be looking out to, right? So you should always be trying to figure out, how can you make your life better 5 years from now? And if you make almost all of your decisions based on that going forward, that's the best framework that I can give you, especially at this young age. You know, the choices that you make now are so impactful in your life, and even the habits that you develop, right? So for example, let's say that you started a business now, right, at 18 years old. Okay, in 5 years, right, you could be 23, and you could be making a couple $100,000 a year from that business, right? Whereas a lot of other people might be just getting out of college, right? So, you know, if you started working out, right? If you started developing your social skills, if you, all of these things, if you imagine 5 years down the road, how impactful that will be. And it's a trade-off though, right? Because if you're thinking, you know, what can I do even in the next year that will improve my life in the next year? You're going to make totally different choices than if you think about, what am I going to do that's going to optimize my life for the next 5 years. And I really got this idea. It was kind of an idea that I've had floating around in my head for a while, but it was really reinforced by a person I follow, Tynan, a friend of mine. He wrote a blog post very similar to what I've been saying. And then, you know, I realized that this is definitely like one of those really universal truths, that a lot of the successful people that I know in life, they optimize for the next 5 years of their life, not for the present. And so, yeah, so I mean, I think that's a critical thing that I would say, is just to think that way, right? It doesn't matter which course you go, which road you go, so much as long as whatever you're doing, you're optimizing for what you want your life to be in the next 5 years. And that's always going to be a moving target as you grow. You know, 1 year from now, what your 5-year kind of target will be way different than it is right now, because you'll have changed. Like if you're optimizing your life for the next 5 years, you'll have changed and grown as a person. But you know, just remember that it's kind of like this cumulative, this compound effect, that you have this curve, and it doesn't really, you know, for most things in life, like you don't even see it move until after year 2. And then at year 3, it starts to go up. And by year 4, you know, it's hockey sticking in. At year 5, you know, it is shooting way up. And the difference between where you are at the end of year 5 versus where you started is drastic. You just don't see it for the first 1, 2, maybe you start to see it maybe in the 3rd year. For most things, it's almost like the 80-20 rule, like Pareto's law. But, you know, a lot of people don't talk about that. So that's what, there you go. All right, let me see here. Let's see. Can't pronounce. Is it Hoa Pedro Barbosa? He says it's going to be a mixed theme Q&A, right? Just like the last live stream. Yeah, so it'll be mixed theme basically right now. Eventually, what I'll do is some of these live streams will make them on specific themes when we have a lot of people. And it'll be too hard to do just a mixed one. So, but for now, it'll just be mixed. So if anyone, I put the link in there. If any of you guys want to jump on and ask your question, go ahead. If not, I've got a few questions that are kind of queued up, but I want to give you guys that are here early the opportunity to ask your questions first. So don't be shy. Okay. And well, while we're waiting here, let me tell you, this month, the book for the book club, the book of the month is going to be a one-page marketing plan. Okay, so go check this book out if you haven't already. We'll put a link. Don't worry about it now, but I'll put a link in the description to this, and it'll go out to all of you, probably in the Facebook group as well. So yeah, so one-page marketing plan. Let's talk a little bit briefly about this. So it's a really good book that basically goes over everything kind of that you need to know at a very basic level for building a business in marketing, right? This is kind of the most comprehensive book that I've found, that it doesn't go into, the extreme detail of all the copywriting tactics and marketing. But the cool thing about it, the reason why I'm making the book, is that this is like a good place for you guys to start, even if you're experienced to some degree, right? Because as I read this book, I found that there was a lot of gaps, right? That some things that I wasn't doing in my business. Let me see if I can pull up the picture. So he's got this picture in here, right? I think it might be hard to focus here, but essentially it's got these 9 boxes, right? And what it is it's basically broken into like before, like prospecting, during, so what you're doing with the leads, and then after. And it gives you kind of a step-by-step, right? So, the first thing is to figure out what your target market is, right? So a lot of times I'm telling you guys that you need to niche down very specifically, right? What is your message? Okay. So what is the message that you're going to send, right? It needs to be consistent, right? So, for example, a lot of you want to create business, like, and I see this a lot of times even on resumes, where it's like jack of all trades, right? It's like, oh, I can do this, and I'm a master at this, and I know kung fu as well, right? And it's like, when someone tries to describe you, or you try to introduce yourself, you don't have a solid thing to talk about. They can't say, it's better if they say, oh, John Sonmez, he's that guy that teaches you how to develop mental toughness, right? The Bulldog mindset, right? That's a specific thing. Whereas if you have like 50 things, and that's somewhat of a bad example, because my area of focus is more personal development. It's more broad, but even I could niche down further. But the point is that you have to have a consistent message, a clear message, right? When someone says, oh yeah, that's the guy that he's an expert at doing video ads, right? That's a really good example, right? That's going to be a message that is going to be conveyed, that people are going to be able to tell other people about you, right? And then the third one is like the media that you'll use to reach your market. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get traffic organically, right? Are you going to use blogs? Are you going to use YouTube? Are you going to use paid traffic? Or if you're going to use paid traffic, are you going to do it on Instagram? Are you going to do it on Facebook, right? So, when you have those 3 things, you can get leads, okay? From there, then he's got a lead capture system. So how are you capturing your leads? What are you doing, right? Are you offering something free, right? What is the thing, right? Like on the Bulldog Mindset, we've got the Bulldog Mindset quiz. There's also a book out there on Amazon. Some of you probably came in from one of those 2 things, right? The lead nurturing system. So once you have the leads, what do you do with them? Like, what do you send people, via email, or how do you keep in contact with them? How do they actually build trust in you, right? What is that content? And then you need a sales conversion strategy. Now you need to take those leads, and you need to convert them into prospects, right? And the thing about this is, no matter what business you're running, all 6 of these things I just described, you need all 6 of those, right? It doesn't matter if you have a retail store. It doesn't matter if you're running a Shopify site. It doesn't matter if you're running a blog. It doesn't matter if you're selling online courses. It doesn't matter if you're selling books on Amazon. Like, any of these things, all of these are required. Even a SaaS business, same thing, right? And then he's got the last section here on after. So when you have a customer, how do you deliver a world-class experience, right? So you got to actually deliver the product, otherwise you're going to get a ton of refunds and cancels, subscriptions, and things like that, okay? And then how do I increase the customer lifetime value? So the best the best customers are your existing customers, right? So people who are already bought from you are more likely to buy from you again. So really important concept again, and this applies. It doesn't matter if you have a retail store. It doesn't matter if you have, you know, an online store. It doesn't matter what your business is. This is always going to be true. And then the final thing is, how can I orchestrate and stimulate referrals? And so again, you know, the best way to get business is through referrals once you have customers in your business, because it's hardest to acquire customers and most expensive. So really, really important. Like the book talks about those 9 blocks there. And if you understand all of those 9 blocks and you understand how that works, then you have a framework for building a business, right? Because every single business that you ever look at is always going to have those 9 blocks to be successful. And there's going to be areas that, you know, that you can improve, right? So when I read this book, for instance, that last one, the referral, I haven't really been focusing on that. I haven't really been, you know, there's been some word of mouth, obviously, with YouTube videos, but I haven't really focused on delivering a message to people who are my customers to say, hey, go out and refer people, go refer a friend, right? To ask for that and to build a business that way. So really good book. You know, make sure you guys check it out. It's a short read too. It's not bad. I think he's got an audio version as well. So, you know, I feel like this one is one that it's worth getting the paper version, just because he's got some charts and stuff in here, and you might want to mark this up. And this is one of those things like, you know, so when I get a paper version of the book, one of the kind of factors is whether or not I'm going to need to reference it, right? So this is one of those books where I'm like, okay, well, let me go through this list and make sure I'm checking all these things off and look at each section and say, okay, you know, I'm going to reread this part of the book and stuff. So anyway, check it out. Let me know, you know, for you guys that you want to get your business started, this is going to be, you know, this is going to help you a lot, okay? Because it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you have. All right, let me see what we got here. All right, guys, let's see. Okay, so do you have a beginner's workout plan recommendation? Let me see. Or I'm good picking one from the dozens online and follow it thoroughly, like Strongless 5x5. Okay, so good question here for those of you that want to start lifting weights and start building some biceps. Here's the thing. Okay, so I don't like the Strong Lifts 5x5 really, because it will build up your legs too much, and you know, I feel like it's kind of a waste of time to really build a huge amount of leg strength for aesthetics. It's not going to look the best, right? So what I'd recommend for a beginner is not a lot different than what I actually do, right? Because the basic principles are not going to change much. So the difference, what's going to change between being a beginner and being advanced, is that as you get more advanced, you have more muscle mass that is going to take more time to recover when you break it down, right? And here's the thing that you have to understand about this, right? So this is the whole like idea behind like changing the body, and you know, this is the meta, right? The higher level of this, right? Because so many people, they preach these workout plans and this is the way you have to do it. You have to understand the fundamental concepts, and then you can kind of craft your own thing once you understand these things, right? So I'm going to kind of give you a high level overview, and probably in one of the weekly trainings, we'll go into depth. I'll do a mind map and I'll show you exactly all these things. But here's the thing to think about, okay? Essentially, what you're trying to do, or well, let's look at it even one level higher than I was going to go. So your body is trying to form an equilibrium, right? All systems in the universe try to create an equilibrium, right? You probably heard about this in chemistry or science class, right? But it's true. And so what does that mean? So it means that for all intents and purposes, right, that you're going to reach some kind of equilibrium point at some point, and that's going to be the max capacity of that you can obtain, right? So when they talk about people that are on like steroids and whatnot, and how like natural versus unnatural lifters, right? The reason why there's a difference, like what is your maximum natural capacity, is because that's the point at which, combined with your hormones, combined with the current muscle mass that you have, with the protein that you're able to take in, the amount of training that you can do, and the amount of time it takes to recover, that you can meet, that your body reaches an equilibrium. Okay, so there's no more inputs that you can put in, right, that are going to affect that your body reaches this equilibrium point. And so your body's always struggling to reach this equilibrium point. And that's why, you know, if you had someone who was at their maximum capacity, okay, and just so you guys know, like, you know, I don't know, I mean, most of you probably already know this, but I've never taken any kind of steroids, and I won't. If I did, I would say it. So, but if you have someone who's natural and then they start taking something like steroids, then it creates an imbalance, right? So that the equilibrium is disturbed because now the hormone have changed. A couple of factors have changed, and so now they can reach a new equilibrium at a higher muscle mass point. Okay, so the reason why I'm starting there is because I want you to understand that what you're trying to do is you're just trying to disrupt the system so that the equilibrium point will be you having more muscle. Okay, and that's really what or more strength. Okay, and so in order to do that, there's a few factors that you can manipulate. Okay, so one of them is the actual training, is breaking down the muscle. Okay, the second one is the nutrition of repairing the muscle and the rate of reparation and the amount of protein that you have to synthesize new proteins. Okay, another one of them is the hormonal profile that you have, right? So testosterone, a few other, vitamins and things like that are going to affect that growth hormone. Okay. And then there's a few other systems like glycogen storage and insulin sensitivity and things like that. We're not getting into those details, but if we're starting from the equilibrium, then we're going down to like the things that we can control the factors. And now we're going to get down to kind of what is optimal, what is going to work for anyone, right? And that's why I'm saying, I'm starting here and I'm saying that it doesn't matter if you're beginner or advanced, really those same principles apply. Your body's still trying to reach an equilibrium. You still have the same factors that you can control. The difference here is this, okay? This is the difference between beginner and advanced, is the beginner, okay, their body is maybe here, okay? And if they, maximize all these other factors that they can control, their equilibrium point could be here, okay? Whereas the person who is advanced, maybe they're here, their body's here with all these factors that they're already doing. And if they maximize those, that their equilibrium point could be here, right? But if we took the same stimulus, right? If we did the same exact thing for the beginner and the same thing for the advanced person, okay, the only difference is going to be that the beginner is going to move down this line to equilibrium faster, right? Just like if you do a science experiment and you have a more drastic change in, if you've ever done the thing like with the semi-permeable membranes, and you take a bag that has fresh water, distilled water, and you have a lot of salt water, however much salt that you have in that water is going to determine how fast that the water changes in that environment, right? Or pouring salt on a slug, right? It's like that's the equilibrium, right? How far that the system is disturbed is going to determine how quickly that it moves towards that new equilibrium, okay? Everything works like that. When you breathe air, okay, how does that work, right? You breathe in, you're creating a vacuum in your lungs, okay? So how do you breathe harder or faster or blow out faster? You create more of a disturbance in equilibrium. That creates more action. Okay, so that's the difference between beginner and advanced. Okay, so now with that base, now let's talk about what do you do? Okay, well, the easiest factors to control is breaking down the muscles and hitting as many muscles as possible. Okay, if you want the biggest change. 2 is the frequency. Okay, 3 is the nutrition. Okay, so the basic workout that I would recommend that I do is full body workouts 3 times a week. Okay, now why do we do this? And there's some specifics, and like I said, I'll get into some of these things in detail, but I want to give you the framework so you can design your own thing, so you understand it, right? So the reason why I do this is because a natural lifter, your recovery period is probably going to be around 48 hours, right? For any particular muscle, right? If you break down all the muscles at one time, right, you do a full body workout, okay, then what we want to do is we want to increase the frequency as much as possible. The more that frequently that we create this disturbance and then cause the system to try to regain equilibrium, the more the faster we're going to be able to move down that line, right? So a lot of people do these workouts where they do like what we call bro splits, and I used to do this where you do one body part one day of the week or whatever. And that's great, except for most of the time you're hitting each muscle group once per week or sometimes twice per week. So maybe you're hitting each muscle group 52 times a year. Whereas if I can hit it 3 times a week, and that's pretty much the maximum, like there might be some ways, like if you're willing to work out 7 days a week, if you're looking for the absolute optimal and you did some kind of split where you made it so you had 48 hours recovery between each muscle group, and so you did some kind of split like that, you might be able to get on average 3.5 or 4 times per week, but it's probably not worth the amount of effort that you're going to put in to get that result versus doing 3 times a week and the result that you're going to get. It's going to be disproportionate, right? I would only, if I were a professional bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder, I would work out twice a day, okay, and I would sleep in between the workouts, and I would optimize it that way. So I'd actually have 14 workout sessions per week, and I would basically time it so that each muscle group is recovering about 48 hours, maybe 40 hours, and I could optimize it to maybe get 4 to 5 stimulus per week per muscle group. But that's not what we're going to do. Instead, my workout is simply Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body workout. And then the critical factor here for the recovery is protein. You have to have enough protein in your diet. If you do that, you're gonna see the best, pretty close to the optimal results. There's other things we could talk about, like obviously I do 1 meal a day in fasting. But if you're talking about just as a beginner trying to gain muscle and trying to make a change in your body, that's going to be the biggest factor. Now, as far as the lifting itself, it really doesn't matter so much what you lift, right? I'm not even going to, we could talk about specific exercises, but it's more important that you're just hitting each muscle group, right? And if you can do compound lifts, the better, right? So it's pretty basic, pretty simple, hit bench press, hit shoulder press, hit squats or leg press if you can. I don't do squats. I do lunges. Whatever you're going to do to hit each particular muscle group, especially as a beginner, it's not going to matter so much. Make sure you hit do pull-ups or whatever, and hit all of those muscle groups in one day. Okay, and then make sure that you're hitting heavy enough weights, right? So as a beginner, I'd probably start off with weights that I could do 8 to 10 reps, and then as you get more advanced and your tendons are a little stronger, you're able to handle the weight, and you're not going to drop it on your head. Then you want to get down to probably around 6 rep range, where that's where I find you get the biggest bang for your buck. 3 sets, something around there. Basically, your workout might be an hour and a half to 2 hours at the max, but that's the way you're gonna maximize. And it's not gonna matter if you're beginner, intermediate, advanced. That same thing, right? I've tested this, and that's gonna be the most effective thing. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, got it. Some interesting questions here. Let's see. What are your views on prolonged 3 to 21 day long snake juice fast? I've gone 7 days successfully, but obviously did not grow any muscle, but did not lose any either. So I like it. I mean, it depends on where you're at, right? So Vincent or Roy asked this question. So Roy, I would ask you, based on this, where did you start from, right? So if you are at lean already, right? If you're pretty lean, and you do a 7 day like snake juice fast, you're gonna lose muscle. Okay, like it's just inevitable. If you're like 10% body fat, you're gonna lose muscle. You're gonna lose fat too, but you're gonna lose muscle, right? At that point, because again, we could take this back to the whole equilibrium, right? If your body, always think of your system, your body as a closed system that is trying to achieve equilibrium. If you have a lot of fat, let's say you're at like 20 or 30% body fat, and you cut the calories, right? Your body is going to, the best way that it's going to be able to achieve equilibrium is using the fat stores in order to give you the energy that you need to survive, to to bring you back to like homeostasis, right? So that your body's optimally performing. If you're at like 10% body fat and you don't eat for 7 days, yes, you do have the fat, but your body is going to take more muscle as well in order to bring you back to an equilibrium that makes sense for what you're doing, right? For your best chance of survival, right? For the thing that's going to make you the most quote normal for the way that your body wants to operate. So my basic guidance on that is this, right? If you want to do a longer, well, okay, I would rather see, you know, I should actually get snake juice guy. What's his name? Joel. Is it Joel? I think it's. Anyway, I can't remember his name now, but I've talked to him a little bit about. But I should get him on the channel. But he's done some extreme things that I don't 100% agree with. But and also I don't think that his physique, like I don't mean to knock him. I think he's a pretty cool guy, but I don't think his physique is very impressive at all. It's so I don't think that he's doing everything quite right. So I can't really like 100, but he's doing some really good things with a lot of people that are really overweight, and that's where I'm going to say it depends on what your goal is, right? So here's the thing that I would say about the longer term fasting. Okay, I don't have any problem with doing like a 7-day fast, snake juice fast. He's right about snake juice, about the electrolytes, right? This is something that we've known for a while, but he's making this more mainstream, so that's good. Okay, but here's the thing to think about, right? If you do a fast that's longer than 3 days, you start to have complications, right? You need electrolytes. First of all, you need snake juice, okay, or some equivalent, right? You need magnesium, you need sodium, and you need potassium, okay? Otherwise, you're going to start to have problems. And here's the other thing. If you fast for longer than 3 days and you try to eat food again, when you reintroduce food, you're going to have problems again. You're going to have stomach problems. It's going to be big issues, right? You can't just start throwing food into your stomach after your digestive system is completely shut down. So you have to break the fast correctly, okay? And if you go longer than that, if you go like a week or 2 weeks, you could actually die when you try and break the fast if you are not careful about it, especially if you eat a large amount of sugar. Like if you broke the fast and ate a bunch of donuts, there's medical cases where people have died from too high blood sugar, right? Because your body's not ready and it's not adjusted to that. So there's a lot of complications, okay? And you have to be careful and you know, but here's the thing. Most people can do a 3-day fast, even if you're lean, right? So rather than doing like a 7-day or 21-day fast, why not do, snake juice guy talks about this. Joel talks about this all the time. It's his basic protocol. But why not do 1 meal a day? And if you don't want to do 1 meal a day, why not do 1 meal every other day? And if you don't want to do that, why not do like a 2 or 3 day fast and then break it and eat a meal, okay, and then do it again, right? So the reason why I think that's better is for a couple of reasons, right? What we talked about so far, which is this idea that like if you're doing these prolonged fasts that are like over 3 days, you have complications and you have things, right? If you just did a 3-day fast, you don't even need snake juice. Like you just need to make sure that you're having a little bit of extra sodium, like in some water, but you don't even really need that if you already have, if you're already okay and you're not doing very like running marathons or something like that, right? Your electrolytes are going to be okay. Okay. Not optimal, but it'll be okay. You're not going to die. Okay. So what I'm saying is that it's just way simpler to do a 2 or 3 day fast, and you're going to get the same effects. And then also the benefit of that is that if you're already lean and you do a 2 or 3 day fast, you're going to prevent the muscle breakdown. After about 48 hours, when you're already lean, that's when you'll really start to see the muscle. That's when you're in more danger of being more catabolic and losing that muscle at an already lean state, right? If you're not lean already, if you're way overweight, then the longer term fasting makes more sense. But even in that case, in my mind, I'm thinking like, what is really the harm of doing like a 2 or 3 day fast and then breaking it to have, a reasonable meal, getting some protein in the system, right? High protein meal, and then fasting again. To me, that just makes more sense from a health, medical, from a, gaining strength and developing your physique perspective, than just doing like a super prolonged fast. That, so that's what I would say about that. But yeah, I'm not against it. Like if you said, oh, I'm going to do a 7-day fast, okay, fine, but why not do it? I would just say, why not do a 3 and then eat one meal and then do a 3? It's going to be almost the same effect, like as far as fat loss, like your calorie deficit, what it comes down to, except you're going to have less chance of losing muscle. You're going to have less chance of dying or having a complication. It'll be easier to break the fast when you're done. And, it'll train you something that could be more lifestyle, right? So if you're going to do like prolonged fasts, right, you can't do 7-day fasts and then do 7-day fasts and do 7-day fasts. That's just going to be way, way, way too hard. But what you could do is you could eat one meal every other day. I've done that for periods of time, and you could actually live that way, right? I live eating one meal every day, or one meal a day, OMAD, and that's totally a lifestyle that you can sustain for over a long period of time to lose fat. But fasting for 7 days is not a lifestyle that you can maintain. Let's see. All right, what do we got here? Just kind of catching up on some of these. Okay, so. Let's see. Honest Graduate says, what are your views on the dad bod trend? I like this one. It's a bunch of bullshit, actually. So it's just a political maneuvering. There is no such thing as, women are not going to be more attracted to someone who has the dad bod. It's just not going to happen, right? You can look at this. I mean, here's what you should look at, okay? If you want to know like the truth about these things, okay? Look at Hollywood movies, okay? And don't look at the message of the movie, okay? Don't look at what they're saying. Look at what they're doing. Okay? So, if you're making a movie, right? A Hollywood movie, all right? You need to make money, okay? So you need to sell tickets to that movie, okay? Now, I'm not saying that they never make mistakes, but what I am saying is that they may have a message, right? So the popular message to put out in Hollywood today in mainstream media is feminism, blah, 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 equal opportunity, blah, 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 no discrimination, all this kind of, Me Too, blah, 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 right? All that kind of bullshit, all right? All right, so that's what they're trying to preach, this very social justice warrior type of message. Okay, but if you look at what they're actually doing, like look at the kind of women that they're casting in roles, and look at the kind of men that they're casting in roles, right? So take an example, like look at Aquaman, right? Aquaman was a pretty big, Jason Momoa, right? He's been around for a long time. He wasn't like this, super heartthrob guy until the Aquaman movie, till they started promoting him. They promoted him in a very, very specific way. Okay, they promoted him as this really like rugged kind of savage dude, right? With a pretty good physique, not the best of like all the superheroes that have been out there. But if you look at that, if you look at all the superheroes that are cast, right, all the leading men that are cast pretty much in roles, they don't have dad bods. Okay, so why do you think that is? Because regardless of the message that Hollywood is putting out, they know what is actually going to sell tickets, right? In fact, what's going to sell tickets best is to tell women that, all the social justice warrior kind of bullcrap that they do, all right? But then to actually present the image of an alpha male, of an ideal sexualized man, right? Even though they're preaching this message, that's going to be the optimal combination, because psychologically you can say, oh yeah, no, this is good, but let's say at a biological primitive level, this is what makes nature go, right? This is the thing. So so basically the whole dad bod thing is just ridiculousness. It's not actually what we see that that is attractive to females. So sorry for you guys that have the dad bod, that are going for the dad bod thing. It's never going to be the case, right? Thousands and thousands of years of evolution and biology are not going to be suddenly changed by a social type of trend, right? Women will say one thing and they will do another. Okay, you have to really understand, and it's not just women. Like, I'm not picking on women. people will say one thing and do, like, it's very important to observe more than what people say what they do. You're going to learn a lot more by observing what people do, right? And a lot of times it's not because people are deceitful. It's because they don't actually even understand this at a level, right? A lot of people cannot explain their own behaviors. They haven't introspected. They don't even know why they're making the choices that they believe. They tell themselves a narration, a story to justify their actions rather than those actions being determined by the story, right? There's a huge difference, right? So you know, if you think about this, right, when you make a choice, when you make a decision, right, especially poor decisions, you always come up with a story of why you did that, and in your mind, right, you retroactively justify, and you basically say that the reason why you did this was because of this, and you tell the story. But what actually happened was that the action came first, okay, and then the story came later, right? We like to believe that the story came and that followed the action, but that's not how we work. We work mostly emotionally, and we're driven by these kind of a lot of instinctual type of behaviors that are not rational. That's why the whole economics, right? You know, rational economics has failed. It doesn't work. That the rational view, you know, that every agent in the system acts to their best interests, right? When you look at economic theory, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. All the predictive models fail in that regard because people make emotional decisions and they backwards rationalize. All right, so let me see here. Okay, let's take a look and see what questions we got here. Got some queued up. By the way, if anyone wants to jump on and ask your question, you get to short circuit the. I've got the link in there in the chat, and you can jump on here, and you can ask me live. So, all right. Let's see. Vikram says, "Hey John, I can understand that we need to be a master of a niche, but I write everything on my blog, whatever I'm learning, like JavaScript, Cloud, .NET Core, but I specialize in .NET and C# specific. Sometimes it's quite boring for me to write the things I already know, and it excites me to write new stuff." So Vikram, this is the problem, okay, of business and of success, right? Is that it's a grind. And so, yeah, you can do the things that excite you, but you have to be known for something, right? That the problem is that, you know, even though, you know, you have all these topics to write about and you're writing about what you're learning, that's not specific enough, right? You can learn these things and you could write about them even, but when it comes to marketing, right? And don't get me wrong here, right? Everything that you're doing when you're writing to the public, when you're creating your blog, if you're trying to build a brand and a name for yourself, it's all marketing, okay? So the marketing message has to be very, very clear and very distinct. Like, what do you do? Okay, like, what are you known for? And I always tell people, what is the thing that you can be #1 best in the world at? Okay, that's you have to think that way, right? And so you could be #1 best in the world at learning a lot of things and then teaching them. Okay, you know, arguably at some point I had built a reputation off of that on Pluralsight, you know, by learning, you know, concepts, learning technologies in a week or two, and then teaching them the very next week later. Okay, but again, it's kind of a weak proposition, right? It's like, you know, it's so hard to, it's not something that you can really easily explain or prove, right? But if you're the #1, you know, I used this example I think last time, but I'll use it again, right? Because it's related to programming. But there was this girl that I knew. She went by Data Grid Girl. She had a website, a blog, Data Grid Girl, and it was an ASP.NET control. And all she did was focus on that one control in ASP.NET. So she was known, right? I to this day, right? I'm still saying her name, right? I still know her as Data Grid Girl. And when I used to go to conferences and talk to people, I was like, oh yeah, you got to check out Data Grid Girl's website, right? If they had any kind of problems or questions about, you know, the data grid control. Okay, so even though you want to, you know, you want to write about all this stuff, this is where the hard part comes, is doing that grind, right, is figuring out that one specific niche area that you're going to become the best in the world at, and focusing on that. And it doesn't mean that you can't do a lot of other things, right? So, I use this kind of classic example of, if your garbage disposal is broken, right? Who do you call? Do you call ABC Plumbing, or do you call Mr. Garbage Disposal Fix It Man, right? Inc. or whatever it is, right? You call Mr. Garbage Disposal Fix It Man Inc. But guess what? Mr. Garbage Disposal Fix It Man Inc., when he comes over to your house to fix your garbage disposal, he can also fix any other plumbing needs. That he can rewire or replumb your entire house. He has those skills, and he's practicing and learning those skills, but he's marketing himself in one specific way. There's one specific thing that he is trying to be the number one best at the world, or at least in your area at, and it's the garbage disposal fixing repair, right? That's the thing that he's focusing on, because that's a clear message, because people are going to spread that name, because people are going to say, oh yeah, this is who you need to go to, because it's easy. Like, we have to categorize and classify people in our head. Okay. And a real good branding is one that you can say specifically, what they do, right? You have a very clear idea. They're not doing 100 different things. They may be able to do 100 different things, but the value proposition that's being presented is very clear and very defined. Okay, that's a critical component, right? So look at, like, Home Depot. Okay, it's home improvement. That's their thing. It's like, if you go to Home Depot, that you're going there to get home improvements. So now there's a lot of other services that they do besides home improvement, right? They actually have a big contractor, section where contractors, buy and build houses and buy things wholesale, and they sell batteries and fucking, tool, like, to unrelated tools, and and Christmas trees and shit there. But home improvement is their focus, right? That's why you're going there. And that's the message that they're conveying. So same thing, you got to just pick one, and you just got to focus on that one. And it's going to be boring, it's going to be a grind. Like, you guys have to understand, like, that if you want to do what you find exciting, and it's a lot of different stuff, you can do that, but you're not going to be successful as when you go deep on one thing. So pick the one thing and go deep and reach success. And when you reach success, then you can expand out more. Then you can do more of what you want. And the bigger that you build the name for yourself, the more stuff that you can do and get away with that, right? So you got to build that name first. You got to go deep into that niche first. If that makes sense. All right, let me see what else we got here. So anyone want to jump on here and ask your question? I'm going to give you the shortcut if you're brave. Don't be shy. Got the link out there. Let me see. Or here, let me do this. Maybe I don't have the link. All right, there we go. So that's the link. If you use that link, you can jump on and ask your question. Okay, while we're waiting, I'm going to jump to the next question here. Okay, David says, in terms of value to audience, what do you think is the right balance between personal experience and actual hard data, evidence, etc., that one wants to achieve when blogging, social media posting? I'm not sure if I understand this. Okay, in terms of value to audience, what do you think is the right balance between personal experience and actual hard data? Oh, okay. So it really depends. I think I get this. And David, let me know if you're actually, if you can jump on the call, it'd actually be easier because I can ask you a few questions. But anyway, let's so this is kind of, I think what you're asking here, David, if I understand correctly, is when you're writing to an audience, should you be more editorial, opinion based, or more factual based? Like, these are the hard facts and statistics, right? How should you present data, or your is that kind of what you're asking here, David? Give you a second. We've got a little bit of a delay here, so. And like I said, David, if you just want to click that link and jump on the call, it might make things easier. All right. Well, I'm going to kind of go with this and assume that that is what we're talking about here. So basically it comes to this, right? So you can do a lot of research to, to come up with a highly researched article, okay? But it's going to take you a lot of time to do that. So what I recommend is sort of a balance, right? And here's the other thing: is like if you have a lot of knowledge, right? If you've researched a lot of things in the past, if you're knowledgeable in a subject, you can just talk about that subject, and then you can find some research points, right? Like so real life and what makes sense in real life, especially to be able to produce a prolific amount of content, to be prolific, is different than college papers where you cite your sources. Okay. Now, some people are really successful at building online brands and whatnot, and market themselves by creating very curated, scientific, cite your sources type of things. But it's not absolutely necessary, right? Those people specifically are building a niche, building a brand based on the fact that they look up the scientific sources, they look at the research papers, right? They interpret the research papers, and that's what they're doing, right? That's sort of their value proposition, right? Most people aren't going to do that, and that's a very specific niche, right? So as far as like just building your brand, you don't need to justify everything that you say, right? A lot of things can be opinion based, right? Some stuff, you're going to say, and you're going to maybe build some stuff that's evidence based, that you're going to cite the sources. But a lot of times it doesn't even matter, because how many bogus fucking sources are out there nowadays, right? How many things are debunked, and like you can quote some kind of source, it doesn't actually make it an authority, right? So I wouldn't waste a lot of time. I mean, it depends on what you're doing, and it depends on what your topic area is. But I believe that you can produce editorial type of pieces a lot faster. They're a lot more interesting anyway, and it's going to have a better effect than creating very, unless you're specifically niching down into that specific things, right? So there's a few people that I can think of on YouTube that specifically talk about the science of things and cite sources. One of them is Jeff Nippard, but again, so many times, like you look at some of his content, and some of his stuff is still not exactly correct, even though he's citing sources, right? He's looking at papers, but someone else can look at that same paper or research and come to a different conclusion. So there's not as big of a value as what you would think in doing that. I think the world has changed enough where we don't really even trust the sources. We trust people, right? And that's the key thing, I think, underlying this, is that it's more that people trust you. And the best thing that you can do is be getting results, right? So again, like if you use the example here of Bulldog Mindset, right? You wouldn't really trust me with fitness advice if I wasn't actually getting results. It doesn't matter how many scientific papers that I throw out and say this is the way that things work and whatnot. If I'm not getting results, what does it matter, right? Same thing with business, right? If I'm giving you all these business ideas and I'm telling you read this book, and I'm not actually making millions of dollars in real estate and businesses and online businesses and building businesses, then what value does it have? It doesn't matter how many papers and books that I cite, right? So there's a balance, definitely, for sure, right? Especially when you're first starting out and you don't have a lot of success and achievements. But the most important thing is going to be, what can you actually do, right? And so if you can have success, and you can show people your success, and you can tell them how you got your success and what you think about it, that's going to be more impactful and than citing 100 different sources of scientific research. So I think that's what you're asking. So, all right, let's see. All right, guys, let me see here. Anyone want to jump in? And okay, looks like Mikhail or Michael.
Hello, John. Hi, you guys.
How's it going, man?
Hey, John. I have some question about goal setting. And
Okay.
at first, I want to say that I'm speaking in a foreign language for me, and if you just don't know, if at one point you would uh, don't know what I'm talking about, so please feel free to interrupt me anytime and ask what the hell I'm talking about. Okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
okay, so basically, I want to ask you about goal setting, because I have so many ideas, so many aspirations for many things in my life, and I think about myself that I'm at an entry level of Bulldog mindset, right? So I'm aware uh, that currently I'm not able to do everything at once, right? I'm not able to accomplish all my goals, so I should prioritize them. And uh, basically, this is a little bit overwhelming for me, because I have some goals related to my career, some goals related to fitness, finances, and basically all parts of my life. And the reason why I'm asking the question is because I wanted to do this 20 days challenge of
Mm.
Bulldog Mindset you published on YouTube, and I got stuck on the day two, the second day, right? Because I have so many goals, and it wasn't possible for me to come up with some aspirations in just only one day, right? Because
Mm.
I was sitting for maybe 2 hours straight and or 3 hours and thinking about the goals I want to do, and there is so much I want to do that I just don't know how I should approach this, because okay, so my question is that if it's when I have so many areas in my life that I want to improve in, uh, should I focus on every area which is important for me and do some small step to make me forward in within that area, or I should focus on only one or two areas and neglect the others? I mean that if I want to improve my career, I want to do I can also improve my fitness in the same time, because it I can do them both at the same time, because it's not conflicting, right?
Right.
But if I want to learn English, for example, if I want to spend 1 hour every day studying English, then I don't have 1 hour for example, for learning designing patterns in because I'm a programmer. And so how what's the best strategy to improve myself in all these areas? Maybe 15 minutes every day of every area, or how would you approach this?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good question. So here's what I would say about this. So try to think. So at the very highest level, we have to start with the question of why achieve goals. See, I'm not a very big goal person. As you know, with that 20-day challenge, I talk about aspirations, which become goals, but even at the higher level of that, right? The reason why we want to achieve goals in life or achieve anything in life is a lot of times we don't even really understand, like, why do you want to have more money? Why do you want to be in shape? Like, why all these things? Like, and we can keep on going with the why, right? And a lot of them will root back to kind of basic biology, like, reproductive capacity and status, and a sense of well-being, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? But ultimately, what we're trying to do, right, if we look at kind of all of those overarching things, is we're trying to improve ourselves in some way, to be better, right, and to grow as a person. So the reason why I'm saying that is because it's not about achieving the goals, and I've talked about this a lot of times before. It's about who you become in the process of achieving those goals. And when you understand that distinction, you realize that you can already be getting the benefits of the goal without achieving the goal, right? Because your focus really needs to be, it's not like, like you're going to achieve this goal one time and then you're done, right? Like you're gonna, in order to achieve that goal, you have to grow as a person to become that kind of person that can achieve that goal. And that's really what you're after anyway, right? So the reason why I'm saying that is because if you just had a one and done type of approach, and you're like, okay, well, I just have to reach this particular rung on the ladder, then I can drop back down the ladder. I just have to ring the bell at the top. Then you would approach things in a much different way, right? So let's say that you just had to get $1 million, right? Like, you know, if that was the only thing that you're trying to do, right? If it's like, I just need to do it, then there's a lot of things that you would do that you wouldn't do if your goal is to improve yourself, right? So if you're just trying to get $1 million, maybe you would start thinking about how you could rob a bank, right? Or something like that. Oh, can you mute yourself, Vikram? Okay. So anyway, so that's, so the reason why I'm saying that is because what you really want to do is make sure that you're building in habits, right? That you're building in a system, a way of living your life that is moving you towards those goals incrementally and improving yourself. And it's a different process, right? So the way I look at it is this: is you can't do everything all at once, okay? But if you know, again, here's a good example: is like, if you've ever played like an RPG or an MMO, right? You can, you know, there's one strat, like let's say that you were like level 1 and you wanted to kill this like level 5, you know, creature, right? You could be like, okay, all I gotta do is get this sword, right? If I find this one sword, it does so much damage that I can kill this level 5 guy, okay? And so you could spend a lot of time trying to get this sword, right? But you're level 1, so the place where this level 10 sword or wherever it is it's hard, like you're going to keep on dying. It's really, really hard to get to, but you're just like focusing on trying to get that sword. A better strategy, though, would be to just level up to level 5, and then you could just use the regular sword you have and kill him, right? because the leveling is more important than the equipment. So the leveling is who you are, the habits that you have, you know, your character as a person, right? The bulldogness within you, that's the level that you're at. Whereas the actual goal, okay, is more like that sword. And so if you raise your level, everything becomes easier. All of the NPCs, the mobs, become easier to kill because you're at that level, right? It doesn't matter necessarily the equipment. The equipment can help you, right? And so what you need to do is focus on raising the level. That's your primary objective, is raising the level, building up the mental toughness, building up the social skills, building up, you know, the aspects, right? This is why I'm so focused on mindset, is building up that mindset, because that's like leveling up, okay? But to get more specific, right? If you want to achieve a specific goal, right? This is how I always look at it. You should have one main thing that you're focused on, that you're always moving forward in that direction, and you never move backwards every single day, right? So you have one main objective, okay? And so maybe that is, you know, for a lot of people that I coach, what that is achieving a point where they can quit their job, where they have enough passive income to achieve their job, where they can basically build up a side business or whatever it is. So that's their main focus, right? So for you, though, it could be just to, you know, reach a certain level in your career, to make a certain amount of money in your career. Okay, that could be it.
Sorry, you know, actually now my this one thing for me is to you know, I'm focusing on my workouts, and basically since I joined Bulldog Mindset community, I work out every day, and that's the only thing I'm actually proud of, you know, currently. And but I'm very proud of, so that's enough, right?
Okay.
And so, you know, I think that I don't know if I understand all of you. I don't know if I understand the point, but so let me rephrase it. I think that the best, you know, I'm at level 1, for example, right? So the best thing for me currently is to focus on developing this Bulldog mindset, right? And so, for example, working out every day and do the other things. And I currently, I don't really need to worry about my other aspirations, and I can uh, start doing them a little bit later, right? Because then I will be ready to for example, I will be more disciplined by working out every day, and then, for example, studying for half an hour every day of some framework, or I don't know, methodology. It doesn't matter. It will be much easier then, and I wouldn't be distracted. Maybe
Well,
that's the point, or not exactly.
close. There's one piece that's missing here, right? Which is this, right? Because you want to level up, but if we go back to the video game example, like of an RPG, right? How do you level up in an RPG? You have to kill things, and you have to gain experience. So how do so you have to have some kind of focus, right? That you're going after. So that's kind of where I'm getting at, is it's like your goal is to level up. Like, so your ultimate goal is to level up. Okay, that's the mindset component. But you need somewhere to direct that energy, right? It can't just be scattered all over, right? So you should have one main focus that you're focusing on improving in life, right? And that could be, we could call it a goal. I call it an aspiration. It's a similar type of idea, right? We have the aspiration that becomes the goal, right? That becomes a process to get there. And so pick the one direction and go deep into that, right? And then what happens is that in that process of doing that, you'll exercise the mindset stuff, right? So I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, you know, at one point in my life, when I was my focus was on getting financially free. And so I picked the goal. I had a year where I did 35 Pluralsight courses. And so my goal for that year, like my focus was doing that. But in order to do that, right, in order to get 35 courses done in that year, I had to tap into the mental toughness, right? I had to tap into, you know, overcoming laziness and procrastination. And I had to tap into a lot of other things, right? The emotional mastery. Like it was a very difficult thing to do, to be working, you know, 12-hour days, you know, 15-hour days every single day for like a whole year, just doing this monotonous task. I had to tap into all that other stuff. So I leveled up in a lot of other areas, right? Like I leveled up completely by focusing on that, because that thing was giving me something to gain experience in. It's like I had to, you know, kill all of those mobs, right? Like as long as I was focusing on that thing, it was causing me to have to grow in other areas as well. Now, it wasn't the only thing that I'm doing, right? So you should have one main focus area that you're going to go deep in, you're always going to make progress on, but then you can have, you know, maybe two, maybe three other things that you're pursuing at the same time. And what's going to happen is that as you do these things, right? So for instance, let's say that you know, you said that your focus area was the fitness side of it. Okay, so if you focus on like your focus, your aspiration is, and you make it specific, like I want to, you know, gain so much muscle, I want to have a physique that looks like this, whatever it is, like your fitness aspiration is, and then you make a goal out of that, and you focus on that for a year, you're going to level up. It's going to require mental toughness to do this, right? It's going to require Bulldog mindset. It's going to require a lot of things in order to accomplish this. Okay, so you're going to level up by virtue of doing that, but also you're going to be building a habit and a routine and a system in place where you'll be able to maintain that on autopilot. Okay, and then you'll be able to focus on something else, right? And so the way that you kind of, you know, get to the point of having success in multiple areas in life is that you focus deeply on one area, one specific thing for a long period of time, until it becomes habit and routine and second nature and becomes part of you. It becomes part of, once something becomes part of your identity, then it doesn't require any effort for you to do it. The things that are not part of our identity require effort for us to accomplish and to do. But once they become integrated into us, right, you could call that leveling up, they become part of our identity, then they become automatic. So if you focus on fitness and you got that, and you got a system and you got a routine and you've built up, you know, to some degree the physique, you can keep that going while you go. Now you're focusing on something else, right? And in the meantime, you still have a couple of things going, right? So you're still maybe reading books, right? You're still like doing these other things, but it's almost like threads spawning off, right? Like you can have all of these other habits and routines, right, that make up your life, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to have a system, right? You want to have a system that is moving you forward, right? And so that's going to be based on the things that you do, the habits that you do every day, right? So if you're consistently, you know, like if you look at my system, right? My system right now is that I eat one meal a day. Okay, that in itself is a hard thing to do, but but it's become integrated into my to my system, right? I lift 3 times a week. I've actually cut out the running for a little bit, but I was running 40-50 miles a week, so I'd run every day, right? I'm getting up, I'm hitting doing so many Pomodoro on work, on business side, right? I've got a system where I'm continuing to develop my social skills over time, right? I'm making YouTube videos. Like, there's systems within systems, like all of this stuff. It seems really, really complicated, right? In the real estate investment that I'm doing, I've got a system that I'm working to do that. But it's all like each one of those things was a piece that I focused on for some period of time, and then it became integrated into the whole, so that I can run this whole system without having to really think about a lot of these things. Now, I still have parts that I'm focusing on when I'm trying to grow in a certain area, but that whole framework, that whole system came about from focusing on little areas and then bringing it all together.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. All right, Roy, what's going on, Roy?
I don't know if you want me to ask another question. I already asked one.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, ask a question if you got one.
No, yeah, I'm currently focusing on real estate, and I'm trying to get my first place rented.
Okay. Yeah.
And I am not, obviously, it's my first time that I'm renting, so I'm not familiar with how many hits I should be expecting per month. But at my current price, I only get like 3, maybe 4 people interested in a showing per week, and none are biting. So I'm assuming I might need to lower the rent. But basically, my question is a pretty simple question. I'm wondering how many hits I should be expecting for a fair market value rented place, like price.
Okay, good question.
If I'm low or high. Yeah.
I'm gonna take this a different direction on you. Okay. So
all right.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. So what is the current price that you have that you're advertising to rent it out at?
$1,400 a month.
Okay, $1,400 a month. Okay. So and how long has it been vacant?
About 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. Okay, so that's not too long. So so we could value that at $700, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if you had a property management company that charged 10% of the rent, right? That's $140 a month, right? How long do you think it will take you to rent it out at the current rate that you're seeing? Like,
well, it depends, right? I only need one successful bite, right? That's the thing with real estate. You don't need to sell to a whole bunch of people,
right?
As I said, I get like three a week, but none have actually done the application.
Right, but you have to take them out there and show them the property as well, right?
Yeah, I do have to do that. I schedule my showings in 30-minute blocks in the weekend. That way, I don't have to go out every single time.
Yep.
But
yeah. So okay, so if we look at, let's say that it takes you another 2 weeks, right, to get it rented out, then that would be $1,400. Okay, so $1,400 would pay 10% property management fee for 10 months. At a 10%. Right, which that's high for property management. It could be 8, 7%, but let's say 10%. So just based on how long it might take you to get rented out, that's already 10 months of paying for the property management fee. Now, how much hours are you spending per month trying to get this rented out? Everything from posting the listing to responding to inquiries to running credit and doing the showings.
I guess I would say about 5 hours a week.
Okay, it's 5 hours a week. Okay, so 20 hours a month. What's your current hourly rate like that you can make per hour?
After taxes and everything, net, I can make about $31 an hour.
Okay, so we'll just do the math there, right? Let's say $30 an hour times 20 hours. So you're spending $600 a month of your time to save $140 a month. Not just, you see what I'm saying? Like the answer for you is to get a property management company, because let me flip it on you, right? If all the work that you're putting in, the 20 hours, you could have someone else do it for you and do a better job, would you pay $140 for that?
Yeah, I believe I would.
Yeah, so that's your solution, because you don't need to become an expert at this, right? If you're going to run a property management company, then your original question is relevant, right? But there's, you can hire someone who already has the answers, who's already going to be able to advertise it way better than, because I can tell you, I mean, just from, from my properties, right? Now I'll kind of backwards answer your question, but I get property management reports from my property management companies that rent my properties out for me. And like in 1 week, they usually get something like 25 to 30 inquiries and usually have 4 to 5 showings, and they're usually rented out within that week. So the reason why is because they're experts at it, because they know exactly where to advertise, they know how to advertise, right? And they have other connections. They have tenants that are coming up that are like, just had a baby or something, and so they're able to just contact the tenant directly and say, from another property that they're renting out, to say, hey, we've got another property for you that would fit your needs, right? So yeah, so I wouldn't continue doing what you're doing, because you're like, spend those 20 hours a month instead doing something else, going after more real estate deals, building a business, even just working overtime at work if that's a possibility. Like, there's a lot of things that you could be doing with that time that, I would gladly pay someone $140 a month to not have that. Now, your profitability may not be as high on the property, but that's fine, because still, regardless of that, like, you have to value your time. This is like one of the big things, because you're running a business here, right? And most people who are running businesses don't value their own time, right? So like for Simple Programmer, for Bulldog Mindset, I pay myself a salary, right? When people say how much money does the company make, I don't take my salary out. My salary is part of the operating costs of the business, and then I can tell you what the profit margin is after the salaries are paid. And the same thing here, right? So if you look at your real estate business, right, it looks better on the spreadsheet, on the numbers, to not have to pay the property management fee. But if you are paying a property management fee, you're just a property manager, and you're not as good of a property manager as someone who's doing this full time you might save yourself some money on expenses and whatnot, but you're definitely not going to be able to compete with people that are doing this every single day of the week, 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah, I get you. So even if you so you have multiple properties, you only have just one, right?
Yeah, I've got 26 right now.
And you still rather pay a property management company to handle all of them for you, even if you have to pay them several thousand a month?
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, the same math applies, right? Think about how much effort it would be for me to manage this property, right? Again, the same question I asked you is, it's like you're spending 20 hours to save $140, right? That's like, right. Again, like if we could run that number the other way, right? That's like you're paying yourself $7 an hour when you're doing that work, right? And you're costing yourself money because you're not doing as good of a job where they could get it rented out faster, and maybe even at a higher rent, right? Like the amount of rent that they might be able to get might actually more than pay for them, right? So I mean, there's a lot of factors in there, but yeah, if I tried to do that, imagine how many hours, and I value my hour, right? Like if I do coaching, like one-on-one coaching, I charge $1,500 an hour to $2,000 an hour to do one-on-one coaching. So imagine how much money I would be throwing down the drain if I actually did any of that work myself, right? So it doesn't scale up, right? And you need to free, like, you need to free up those 20 hours to be doing more real estate deals if you can, so that you can build, more of an empire.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess usually management companies do charge you first month of rent just to fill a vacancy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's just 10%, but
well, that's why I come up with the 10% number, is because usually their monthly fee is going to be around 8%, let's say. For most, or you can usually negotiate it. And so when you factor in everything, and average tenant is going to live there for 3 years or so. So even when you pay the first month's rent or whatever the lease up fee is, you're still going to, it's probably going to average out to about 10%. That's why I usually use that number for property management.
Okay.
But, all right.
That's all I had.
Cool. Thanks, Roy. All right. Looks like we got about 10 minutes here. If anyone else wants to jump on and ask a question, otherwise, I think I've got a few queued up here. Let me see. I'm gonna get to one of these questions. Okay. All right. Joe has a question. I'm gonna blast through some of these quickly since we've only got 10 minutes left. So Joe said, any advice on the best way to retain information when you're reading lots of personal development books? I usually listen to the audio versions in the car, so taking notes is an option. So here's what I'd say, Joe. I think I talked about this on the last live stream, but I'll rehash it real quickly here. Is that when you're reading, you're usually reading for one of two purposes. One of them is to gain wisdom. The other one is to gain knowledge. That's kind of the best way I can describe this. When you're listening to like audio personal development books in the car, you're trying to gain wisdom. Okay. And what I mean by that is that you don't need to know, like, you're basically, you don't need to memorize and like, you're not trying to learn a very specific thing. You're just trying to like hear good stuff so that like it will become part of you, right? It's part of you. The inputs that you take in determine your who you become, right? You're trying to change your identity. You're trying to improve your identity. You're trying to develop at a subconscious level in this case, and some of it's conscious, right? But you're trying to gain perspective, gain wisdom. You hear these good things. You don't have to memorize them, right? And the more that you hear them, the more they're reinforced. So listening to good personal development books is like that. Okay. The second reason why we read books is to gain specific knowledge. When we want specific knowledge. So for example, take this book. This is why I said maybe you guys should buy the printed version of this one-page marketing plan. Now you can listen to the audio and you're going to gain some wisdom from that. Okay. Especially if you're already experienced in business and you already understand marketing and whatnot. Okay. But you might want to gain some specific knowledge from this book, right? You might want to go and read this book in detail and highlight and take notes and say, this is exactly what I need to do in my business. This is what I'm missing. Right. And that's specific knowledge. Or I don't know how to market. I don't know how to build a niche. I don't know. You have these questions. You want the answers in here. Okay. So that's kind of the basic answer is like, understand that there's a lot of books, like you're not going to, now there might be some specific personal development books that you'd want to gain specific knowledge in, okay, that you want to drive or dive deep into. Okay. But in general, you have to realize that there's those two categories and they're both valuable. Okay. So that's kind of the basic way that I look at it. There's a lot of books that I just listen to the audio and I'm just trying to gain some wisdom. And over time I do, right? I'd rather listen to, 50 audiobooks a year and get a lot of perspective and wisdom than, just read 5 books and just, trying to seek knowledge from those books, especially a lot of personal development books. There's not specific knowledge that you're not really going to take notes and it's not going to matter. It's the message that you're hearing that's becoming integrated into yourself over time. Okay, let's see what else do we got here. All right. Marco, he's got a weird question. If virgin girl is screening you for a boyfriend, is it the same as girls that are not virgins? Does she respect you less as a man than some guy that she would fuck here and now, or am I getting this wrong? I think the perspective might be a little bit wrong here. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of how to answer this that kind of makes sense from the perspective, because there is some of the double standard in society, right, between men and women and number of sexual partners, but I would say this. Okay, this is kind of maybe the kind of raw and general answer for this question, which is this: is that the more experience that a girl has, the more that her perspective is going to be different, right? So think of it this way. If you had grown up your whole life and you only ate one kind of food, right? Like we feed our pets, just eating that one fucking, dog food or whatever it is. And you went to a restaurant that serves something different, you would probably be pretty impressed. Your bar would be pretty low. Okay. If you grew up and you traveled the world and you ate at all kinds of 5-star restaurants all over the world, and you had some shitty restaurants, but you just have eaten a lot of, like, you're a food connoisseur, then your bar for going to a restaurant will be really high. So a woman that is more experienced, a girl that's more experienced, is going to evaluate. She's seen a lot of guys. She's seen a lot of things. She's her level of evaluation is probably going to be a lot more different than a girl. It's going to be harder to impress her. Let's put it that way. Okay, in all various aspects of the relationship. Whereas a girl that is a virgin, in that case, it's it's not going to be quite as difficult to impress her, but at the same time she's probably going to have higher standards, right? Because she's probably, if she's made it that long in life, depending on how old she is. So that's kind of the general. But the reason why I'm hesitant to answer that question is I don't think you should be focusing on that, right? As a man, you shouldn't be like, the dangerous thing about the question you're asking is it seems like, I'm inferring a lot of stuff from here, but it seems like you're picking out this one girl that you're possibly obsessing about, and you're trying to figure out, how can I win this one girl? And I was just talking to someone about this the other day, and that's a losing strategy. The winning strategy as a man is to say, how can I, and again, you shouldn't be doing this just for women, but how can I be a more attractive man to 50 different women, and then you'll be able to get the one. You see what I'm saying? Like if you are focused just on this one girl, you're going to have a huge problem, because you're going to come off as needy. You're going to, like, all of these behaviors that are going to be not going to be attractive. You're going to be exhibiting those behaviors, and you're not going to be able to control that. But if you instead change your focus to saying, one particular woman is not special or important, I'm just going to go after, the multitude that's out there, then, by virtue of doing that, you'll be the kind of guy that will be able to get the one girl. But you'll be doing it from a perspective, again, like if we go back to the beginning of what I said, of someone who just only ate one food, right, and then visited a restaurant, they would think that the first restaurant they went to was awesome. It's great. Look at this shit. It's pizza. This is good, right? And it's shitty Chuck E. Cheese pizza or whatever it is, right? So it's the same thing. Like, as a man, you don't want your perspective. Again, you can live your life however you want, but what I'm saying is that you don't want to be the guy that hasn't had any food, and then the first time you get food, you're like, oh, this is great, and you're actually eating McDonald's, and you think McDonald's is the best food on earth, because later on, as you keep on eating McDonald's and only McDonald's, you're going to get fat, and you're going to figure out that it's not the best food, it's not the best quality food, and you jumped to McDonald's too early on. Okay, so you got to kind of go out there and have some different foods, so you have different perspective, and then when you have that perspective, you're going to make a better choice, because you're going to actually be able to evaluate things based on comparison to others, rather than just on a comparison to nothing, right? A lot of you guys are evaluating things on a comparison to nothing, because you're just like, you one in your mind think that if I can just get something, I'd be happy, which is a scarcity mindset. It's not a good mindset to have. Instead, you should be thinking, don't think about how you can get one. Think about how you can get 50 or 100. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to get 50 or 100. It just means that live your life, operate in such a way of abundance, of thinking that way, right? Again, you could say the same thing. This applies to all kinds of areas of your life, from finance to fitness and all these things. If you're just focused on trying to get this one thing, right, you're aiming too low, and it's going to make it so that you're less likely to get it. It's better to aim high, right? If you look at, Grant Cardone's really good book, 10X rule, you should be looking at life from a 10X perspective, right? Don't just aim for the goal, aim to 10X that goal. And then you're going to be much more guaranteed to hit that goal, much more likely to hit that goal. Okay. So that's my answer to that kind of strange question, but okay. We're almost out of time here. Let's see. All right. Got maybe time for one more question. Maybe two more. All right, just trying to catch up with. Okay. Okay, let's see here. All right. No, don't worry, Marco. You didn't ask the question. I don't know. Like, we could talk about this another time as well. I think get what you're saying, but I'm just redirecting the question to what I think is a more valuable thing to look at. So, okay, so one last question, and then we are done here because we only have about a minute left. So Fausto said, or let me see. Okay, I've got a few here, so I'm going to kind of pick one out here. Okay, I'm just going to go with this. Okay, what would you consider better? Increasing the number of posts for your blog, e.g. from 1 to 3 per week, or writing affiliate posts to increase audience? So I think what you're saying here is guest posts. So, you know, the way I'm interpreting this question is, would it be better to go from writing 1 post a week on your blog, or let's say 1 YouTube video, however you're going to, you know, to try to grow your audience, to 3, or to post on other people's blog to gain audience? And here's the thing I would say about this. Okay, is they're 2 very distinct strategies, and they can be combined, but know exactly what you're doing, right? What's probably, there's been plenty of people, right, that have used other people's audiences and posting on other people's blogs in order to really, really grow and build their own audience. Okay. But if you're going to go down that road, you really have to go down that road hard, and it's going to take a lot of grind in order to actually achieve results doing that. Okay. So if you're going to do that, do it really, really hard. Okay. People like Neil Patel have been super successful at that. I think James Clear did that a lot earlier in his career. Okay. But he also posts on his own blog. You know, the optimal is going to be to do both. But if I had to choose between one or the other, I'm probably going to spend my effort creating 3 blog posts a week on my own blog. 1, because I'm creating content that exists that I own on my blog, and 2, because I can control that better, right? Now, if you're just starting out and you have no traffic and you have no reputation or brand, doing a lot of posts on other people's blogs, if you're dedicated to that, is probably going to get you more results quicker. So it really depends, and it depends on also on what kind of resources are out there and what kind of connections that you have, right? You could try it. So here's one thing I would suggest is this. So try for 3 months, just working 100%. Your goal is to get posts on other people's blogs, okay? And just focus on that for 3 months worth of time, right? That means, you know, just reach out to as many people and make the list. Like, just focus on that, okay? And then try 3 months of just writing on your own blog, writing as many posts as you can, and see which one works better. And maybe what works good is alternating every 3 months, switching between those 2 modes, right? Because then you can get the benefits of both. But don't split your focus at one time. If that makes sense. That's the key thing that I would say is, like, don't try and write on your own blog and try to half-ass reach out to people to write on their blogs, so that you're just not going to get anything done. So, all right. That is all we have time for this week. So thanks, you guys, for joining me here, and hopefully you found this beneficial. All right, we will do the live stream again next month. I think it should be, probably will be on Saturday. We'll send out the information. But thanks, guys. And if I didn't get to your question, I'll you know, you can post it in the Facebook or whatever, and I'll try and get to it, or we'll get to it next time. Just ask it. Just be here early and ask it next time. All right, guys. Yeah, try to join early. Definitely. The earlier that you are, the more likely that you're going to get your question answered. So, all right, guys. I will see you next time. Take care.